Okay, so today we've got Onkar with us. He's a dentist in London and Essex, and he's really going to be sharing about his dental journey. In particular, we want to focus in on his experience of the Dental Foundation training year, because he's been really heavily involved with that. I mean, if you check out his Instagram, you'll see all about it. He graduated from King's College London. I believe you won the Portsmouth prize. You'll tell us all about that, as well as the best case during your foundation year. You're involved in, I know you did a talk at King's College London about foundation training, and you also teach on the dental training consultants courses. So we can talk about that as well. So welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Arnold. It's nice to be able to tell the story, and thanks for being so welcoming. I like that intro. I might have to record that intro and play it whenever I go somewhere now.
But no, the pleasure's mine. What I'd like to do is to start off with why you decided to study dentistry, why you wanted to become a dentist. You know, who wants to become a dentist?
Right. It's a bit of a niche one. I think, as you can tell, I like a good chat. I like a good natter. I like talking with people. When I was in school, you know, not a lot of people wanted to pursue dentistry. It was mainly medicine. And I had that kind of like that torn emotion of medicine, dentistry. And I just wasn't sure. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure of dentistry until the UCAS deadline in year 12, year 13. But the reason why I picked it in the end over medicine, I guess it's quite a textbook answer, but it's that continuity of care, you know, like you can be a family dentist and see generations of people. And I also liked the variety of the career in regards to like every day as a GDP is different. I think even in foundation training in these 6 months that I've had before the COVID situation, I realized every day is different, from that pediatric, you know, review to that denture that's broken in half to just your regular, you know, your regular composite. Like it's quite fun, and I enjoy that variety, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, your experience of dentistry or even medicine before, what was it? Did you have parents that are in healthcare or?
Yeah, so growing up, like I've been quite fortunate to have people around me that have, you know, studied medicine, like my cousins. I've got one cousin that's training to be a consultant in orthopedics. So I saw his struggle in medicine and how hard it was, and all respect given to him. And, you know, he's still getting to that pathway of being a consultant, and he's 10 years post-grad now, you know?
Wow.
So I saw that journey and I was like, could I do that? If I had done medicine, I reckon I would have potentially pursued a GP pathway, because I like that, you know, that in an office, in a surgery, seeing the same people. I'm quite a routine guy in regards to my daily sort of, you know, routine. I like it to be quite similar. My sister did pharmacy, and I knew that wasn't for me because I'm not good at chemistry. So I just was like, that is not the one, I can't do it. So that was always out of the question. And yeah, I've got, you know, that was the main two. My dad, fortunately enough, I never say this, I feel like I don't really talk about it much. My dad's a big influence, and he's a dentist.
Yeah.
But he was always the one that said, think carefully about what you want to do, and think, like, obviously about long term if the profession suits you. And funnily enough, he's the one that encouraged me to look at other careers apart from dentistry, because he thought it might be too niche for me. My dad knows I've got loads of, you know, my head is always spinning. I think, as we all are as dentists, you've always got something going on. And he was like, I just don't know if dentistry is too niche for you. Like, look into other things, look into medicine, look into this, look into psychology. And I did, but I think just work out differently, don't they? But he was a big inspiration on me growing up.
Just pausing there. Many times you hear about dentists that are actually discouraging.
Yeah, honestly.
Getting into dentistry. Your dad being a dentist.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think that is?
I'll be honest, Arnold, like he works hard. Like, he worked hard all my childhood. He was always there. He was always present. It wasn't like he wasn't there. He's a strong, figure in my life. But it's hard work. And I think, like, from his point of view, working those long hours, and I think it is quite niche and high stress when you get into it. Obviously, I'm only a VT. I haven't got as much experience as yourself or someone a bit senior, but even those first 6 months, there was days when I'd come home and I'd be zapped, of the energy. I wouldn't want to talk. I would just want to either eat my dinner and sleep or go straight to the gym, because for me, like, I need that, you need that stress buster.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there is days when it's intense, especially as a junior. You have people, unfortunately, sometimes patients may come in and see a younger dentist and immediately their guard is up because we're a bit younger. And the classic comment I have at work is, have you done this before? And I have. But I thought the beard would give me a few extra years, but clearly they still see right through me.
Yeah. And okay, so you mentioned earlier that it was, you said you realized that you wanted to do it after the UCAS application deadline?
Yeah, so I was in year 12 and UCAS was approaching in October, early deadline. And, at this time in summer holidays of year 12, year 11, year 10, I was still doing different work experiences within hospital, pharmacy, optics, everywhere that I could get. I would just check that I would enjoy it, even did a bit of teaching, like in secondary and primary, like teaching assistant. Everything that I thought I might enjoy. And then it just clicked. I was like, I think it's going to be dentistry for me, because I had a chat with one of my friends at sixth form, and she was applying for medicine.
Yeah.
And then I'm still in touch with her now, we're good friends, and she changed her mind to dentistry and she was set on medicine.
Yeah.
And we had a chat one day at lunchtime and we just talked about why dentistry, why medicine. And I realized for the person that I am, the creativity side of it, like I said, the routine nature of being in, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, that flexibility, and I think just the general vibe that comes with dentistry, it can be as relaxed as you want it to be. I feel like that's why I thought, I want to do this. And thankfully I did it and I didn't look back. But there's a story to it, as I'm sure, as I've told you already. There's a long slog to getting there, but yeah, that's why.
Yeah. Let's get straight into it. Tell us about your journey into applying and actually getting into dental school. So okay, you've decided dentistry.
Yeah.
You're in year 12. So
Yeah.
do you wait till year 13 and then apply? What happens next?
Yeah, so from year 12, if we rewind even further to year 10, I'm picking my GCSE options in year 9 and I pick what I want to pick, and I'm happy with that. I then go into year 9, then I go and finish year 9, everything's fine. You're only 15. In year 9, I even caught swine flu.
All right.
I remember that was the pandemic at the time, was swine flu. So I caught it. It was really bad. I can only imagine what COVID patients are going through. But with the swine flu, I was knocked out for 3 weeks. I missed 3 weeks of school, then moved into year 10. And in year 10, we had some exams and they decided what set they would put you in. So, double science, triple science, foundation maths, all of these things. And I remember, I caught swine flu. It was quite funny timing. I caught swine flu, and then in year 10, at the time of doing the exams, I had, for anyone that's non-dental, Dr. Arnold will get this straight away. My upper right 3 under G8, I had to have expose and bond. Right. So, and I had some retained deciduous teeth that had to come out under GA for my braces. So I had to go to hospital. I was admitted, and that was like a big procedure. So I didn't have time to
orthodontic treatment then.
Yeah, so I had complex orthodontic treatment under GA. I was in hospital with downtime. I'll be honest, I didn't revise. You're 15. I don't put that as a I don't advocate not studying, but I was in the hospital. So I had 2 days off, did the exams, didn't do too well, and I got my results. And lo and behold, they put me into double science, foundation maths, all of these things that would unfortunately hinder my progression moving forward. At that point, I was still unsure medicine or dentistry. I then got a letter from the school in the summer holidays of year 10. So this is now like August 2010. I remember it really clearly. I got a letter from the school addressed to me and my parents. And, me being me at 15, thinking I know best, I opened the letter I opened the letter and I read it, and it said, "We've put you into these sets." And straight away you see that's it. Like, I can't apply for what I want to apply. It's done. And you take it quite to heart. And the human factor of them not considering I was in the hospital, or I was, I had complex work done, or, nothing was taken into account.
Yeah.
So, you do what you normally do best, and you call mum. "Hello, mum, I've got this letter. This has happened. We need to set up a meeting." Summer holidays went by. I went back to year 11 and I was in all these lower sets. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just knew that I didn't want that for me, because I wanted to apply to medicine or dentistry. So we had a meeting with the head of science at my school, which was a good school. It was a grammar school that I got into in the Essex area. I did my 11 plus, all of that I got in. I was quite bright, I think. I'd hope to say I was quite bright at that age. But, you're not focused when you're 15, your head's in like Twitter and Facebook and you're just not thinking. Yeah. And I had a meeting, and I remember this really clearly, Arnold. He goes to me and my parents. He sat us down and he put a pie chart there and a graph, and he did the bell curve, and he goes, "Look at the bell curve. This is the average. Onkar's on this side of the bell curve, the lower side. Students like that don't get into medicine or dentistry." And, I remember it so clearly, and even talking about it now, it makes me angry, because it was like someone was taking that from me without giving me the chance, And I remember the bell went for first period, and it was a science lesson, funnily enough. And my parents were like, "Go, we'll talk to him. You just go, don't worry." Because I was getting quite upset. So I left the room and I didn't hear anything. And then he got back to me and he said, "We're going to keep you in double science and we're going to keep you in lower maths." And I was like, that's not fair, And my parents obviously knew what I was aspiring to apply for. And even I think they felt as if, what's going on? What's going to happen,
So just to get it correct, you and your parents were trying to reason, was it with the headmaster?
It was the head of science, yeah.
The head of science, to say, you're trying to apply for medicine or dentistry in the future. It would mean that you'd be better placed to be in the higher sets for those applications. Is it possible that you could be in those higher sets? And then that's what the head of science says, with how you've performed, you're this side of the bell curve. There's no chance.
No chance. And it was like in concrete, Arnold. He was like, "There's no way." And at that point, you go onto Google, can you get into dentistry with double science? Can you get into medicine with double science? And I was making myself literally nervous at the age of 15 about UCAS, which, going back, I think that was just me forward planning. But then I was told I couldn't do it. And, the months went by, and I think I nagged every teacher within the science department. Literally, this is something about me, is that I feel like if I want something, I will try and try and try. I think all dentists we're quite like that, right? Yeah. I nagged every science teacher until 3 of them, so 3 separate teachers, told me, one biology, one chemistry, and another biology, told me, "Look, if you can get 3 A stars or 2 A stars in your modules for double science in January time, tell the head of science, and he has to move you into triple science. There's no way they can't." And then I revised, and I worked so hard, and I got 2 A stars, and I got a B in my physics, and I went up to him and I said, "I've got these now, can I move up?" And they let me move up. So that was like the first step of me being able to progress.
Would you say that students should be thinking that early about careers like medicine and dentistry, thinking that early in terms of how should I position myself? Do you think that's early enough? Should it be earlier, or is that too early?
I think 16, year 11 is almost the right age, because you're going into sixth form within a year, If you've got that sort of preconceived idea that I like science, or I like something along those lines, medicine, dentistry, whatever it may be, is the one for me. I don't see the harm in tailoring yourself and picking the correct options to get to that point, because there's no point in you picking option X, Y, and Z if they don't correlate at all, I need, for example, like with myself, I was like, I need to pick options that kind of make me stand out. So I picked graphics and design technology because it's a lot of manual dexterity. And I knew like I could write about this in my personal statement. And to be fair, I did 3 years later. So I think there's no harm if you know where you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So what happens next?
So what happens next is then I then nag the maths teachers and say, look, I'll prove you guys wrong. Let me do the higher paper. And the maths teachers were a lot more supportive. They were like, of course, you know, you've proved it. Your in-house assessments have been good. So give it a shot, yeah? And I did. So year 11 kind of came around, you know, we had Leavers Day. We all like graffitied our shirts and we all left. And it was a good day. And I had like my 2 weeks of study leave, and then my GCSE started. And then I worked really hard, you know. My parents are born and raised in Africa. My mum's from Kenya and my dad's from Uganda, but we're also Indian. So they've got that strict African education element and strict Indian, so it's combined. Yeah. So mum was like, if you want to be a doctor or a dentist, you need to work. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work. And I remember so clearly on my first day of Easter holidays, I was going to have a lie-in. Yeah. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, she came and drew the blinds and was like, you need to put in the work now because you've told all these teachers, let's put in the work. And I think that was the moment where I was like, mum's right, you know, mum's right, I'm going to put in the work. I went to the library every day. And I think for a 15, 16-year-old teenage boy to go to the library every day from 9 to 6 was just, I think it just proved my motivation to getting to where I wanted to get to. Did my GCSE.
It sounds like you had quite supportive parents. They were willing to go with you to go talk to your head of science. You know, your mum is waking up in the morning. It's quite supportive.
Yeah, they have been. I can only thank. I can't thank them enough for what they've done. You know, from driving me to this place, driving me to interviews, driving me to my chemistry tutor when I was bad at chemistry. I've been lucky, and I can't deny that I've had things that all people have access to, like a tutor or like that. But they've helped me so much, and like, you know, I think that's why I think the support network you have around you, whether it be parents or friends or cousins, is so important. You know, I did my exams, did my GCSEs, did well for myself at the time. So I ended up getting 5 A stars and 5 A's, and I was really happy with that. And I got a B in French, but I keep that one on the down low. But I went, you know, straight away, and I told the teacher, the head of science, that told me I couldn't do medicine or dentistry. I gave him the results sheet, and I was like, sir, this is for you, and all the teachers that said I wouldn't be able to do it, this is for you. And he was like, look, I take my words back.
Mic drop.
Yeah, my mic drop moment, you know. And then I moved sixth form, so I moved to a different sixth form.
Okay. So was that because the sixth form at the school you were going to just wasn't as competitive? What was the reason for that?
I just felt as if, like, in my GCSE year, I know like it's all subjective, but I didn't feel supported. Okay. And I wanted to move somewhere with a fresh start, that although, you know, I was at a grammar school, I didn't, you know, there's like 120 in a year, and they always have their golden star, like their golden boys that they pay attention to. And it was an all boys grammar, and they have their golden kids they pay attention to, and then they have the, you know, the kids in the middle that kind of just blend in the middle, and then they have the ones who cause trouble that are having attention for the wrong reasons. And I wasn't naughty, like in a school environment. I wasn't naughty, I was focused. Maybe I was a bit chatty, but I was never given the attention of the elite students, you know. I was just there, blending in the middle, and I didn't feel like that was a nurturing environment for me to go into to apply for like a competitive degree, you know. They also didn't have the best track record with dentistry. It was very medicine based, and I just thought to myself, what can I do now? What should I do? Should I move sixth form? And I researched and I moved. And I think it was, you know, there's this, even with the moving to sixth form, like, I'm glad I did it. But even there, with that sixth form being, you know, a specialized sixth form in regards to helping you achieve your university dreams. They were really good. They were very supportive with UCAS. I still didn't get in the first time round. So I think moving somewhere isn't a guarantee you're going to get in. But then, yeah, I moved because I just felt a lack of support, Arnold. That would be my main answer to that question. Yeah.
Okay. And so you said you didn't get in the first time round, but what do you think went wrong? How did you approach it? And
Everything. You know what? I find it really funny. I like one of my favorite lines. You know, you're 17 years old. You're asked to make a choice about the rest of your life, but you've still got to put your hand up to go to the toilet, you know? And it's like, you know, that in itself is crazy to me, that we make people pick their future career path at 17, you know? And I think for me, it was a bit of naivety, in not writing my personal statement in the best way, and also probably just not understanding the UCAS process, you know. On paper, I was a perfect student. You know, I had these A stars and A's at GCSE. I did okay in the UK CAP my first time round. I got like smack bang middle in the average. So the average for my year was 650 and I got it. So I thought that's fine, you know. My personal statement, my sixth form seemed to love, but I got 4 rejections off the bat. And then I just thought, what is going wrong here? You know, what is happening? So it was...
interviews?
I had one interview at King's, and it was February 2013. And the reason why I remember it so clearly is because it was the last day of interviews for King's. So by that point, you already know they've given out the majority of their offers. This last day they've probably got like 3 offers left to give, and they've still got a full day of interviews, you know? So it's by that point, they've filtered out everyone, and there's the last few now, and it's even harder. You know, if you get that interview call in December when there's 150 places to fill, touch wood, you're likely going to get an offer, right? If you impress at the interview. But I knew at this point, pressure was high. I had 3 rejections off the bat from Bristol, Manchester, and Leeds. And I just knew, like, this is all or nothing. Let's give it my all. And unfortunately, being young and being nervous, I buckled at the interview. I just, under pressure, I completely buckled.
Had you had much experience of interviews in that sort of way?
No, I didn't. And
how did you prepare?
I prepared with my sister, you know, mock interviewing me. Obviously, where she had gone to pharmacy school and all these things, she had a fair share of interviews. She was doing her own thing. My sixth form kind of helped me with some mock workshops, but I just never felt ready. And you know what? I think a lot of that stems back to, unfortunately, a lot of that stemmed back to my time in secondary school, being told I wasn't the type of student they were looking for. It kind of stays in your head. And you think like that the other applicants are going to be better on paper. I had this sort of defense mechanism up. I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about what I was told in year 11. And that stuff stays with you, unfortunately, you know. Thankfully, I've gotten past it. But even talking about it now, I'm like, I'm upset I let myself think like that, you know. I just was very unprepared and also quite overwhelmed. And I found A-levels quite challenging. So that is probably, I found A-levels quite hard.
So how did that not crush your dreams to say, okay, I tried, I had an interview. Dentistry is just not for me?
So I remember really clearly I got the rejection from King's. I actually came home. I'd gotten home from sixth form and I got the rejection from King's, and it's always dramatic with me. It was winter, it was dark outside. It was like, you know, pathetic fallacy in English GCSE when they're like, the weather was dark, the clouds were low. It was literally like that. And I got this rejection letter and I was like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do? So I kind of laughed. Initially I laughed, like, this is funny. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then I went downstairs. My parents were having dinner, like waiting for me to come down the stairs. And I was like, I got rejected from King's. And you know, the support again that they showed me was amazing. They were like, don't worry, like, just don't worry, you know, it's God's plan. Like, my parents are very much like that. It's God's plan. Like, you know, things that happen, there's all for greater good. Like, things happen for a reason. So I moved forward.
Had you been waiting for a while from interview to the rejection? Was it like weeks?
Yeah, actually had been. So I thought I might have a good chance. So my interview was in February and I didn't hear back until late March. You know,
Okay.
so they kept me waiting for a long time. Bearing in mind my friends at sixth form, my best friend at sixth form that also applied for dentistry, the one that I mentioned earlier, had 3 interviews at this point and 3 offers. So
Wow.
when you're talking to someone every day, you know, a best friend, you're calling them, you're chilling with them outside of school, inside of school, and they've got 3 offers and 3 interviews with 1 more coming, you're like, what have I done wrong? And you know what? Again, going back, I was the one that sort of told her, let's do dentistry together. And she wanted to do medicine. And you
Yeah.
know, you think to yourself, like, I've made my friend, like, I convinced my friend, and she was the one that was like, you convinced me. And she loved the idea. And then your friend's getting the interviews and the offers, and you're not, and you've wanted to do it now from like a younger, like, you've been preparing to do it for like a year and a half now, you know?
Mm.
So I was kind of internally upset at that as well.
Okay.
Um,
So
I,
your parents, you were saying, were really supportive again, and did they
yeah.
encourage you to apply again?
So my bless my mum, she didn't know like what a gap year was, you know, being being in the Indian Asian community again, she didn't know like just what's a gap year, you know. Indian kids don't take gap years. I feel like
Yeah.
that's one of the funny things that I've heard. You know, it's not something. But I told my dad took a gap year before uni, so he was very well accustomed to the idea. He didn't get in. It's weird. It's like history repeated itself. My dad didn't get in when he applied for dentistry all them years ago in the early 80s, late 70s. He didn't get
Did
in.
that do
So
dentistry in Kenya?
my dad did dentistry at Guy's as well, at
All
King's
right.
as well.
Okay. In England.
So he did dentistry in England, but he came over when all the Asians were expelled by Idi Amin from Uganda. So that's when my dad came over to this country and
Okay.
did.
So your dad was from Uganda. It was your mum.
Mum was from Nairobi, yeah. Mum's from Nairobi, dad's from Uganda. So dad came over in the 70s, 1971, 72, I believe, is when dad came over. Did his education from secondary school in London, and then, you know, moved forward that way. But he knew what a gap year was, mum didn't. So they were like, what are you going to do, you know? And I was like, look, I'll work hard, I'll get my 3 A's, and then I'll go traveling on my gap year. You know, I just thought I'd be edgy and do a gap year like all the edgy kids did. And I worked hard, I worked really hard, I stressed myself out a bit. Chemistry and me just didn't get along. Even thinking about chemistry now is like, it causes me stress because we had like, you know, that module in uni, dental materials, and it's all chemistry based.
Mm.
And I was like, gosh, chemistry coming back to haunt me. But I worked hard, did my exams, and lo and behold, again, results day came around. And I remember everyone telling me at my sixth form, Onkar, just get your 3 A's, get your 3 A's. You already have an A in your AS level psychology, so that's already in the bank, yeah? Get 3 A's, reapply, and you will definitely get some interviews. So what happens? I do my results day, I get open the paper, I get A and 2 B's. And I'm
Wow.
like, what? And not, I was like, not again. I was like, not again. So I was predicted an A star in geography and I got a B. So that was very confusing for me. And then chemistry, my modules were A, D, and it
God.
brought me on to a B. And I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
actually quite similar to me as well.
yeah,
I did really well in my chemistry modules in year 12. Year
yeah,
13, something just went wrong and it was like a
yeah.
B. But yeah, no,
Honestly,
carry on, sorry.
no, I think it was that maths paper. You know, I'm not very good with numbers. So I did biology and chemistry, and then geography and psychology. I really like essay writing. So that last chemistry paper was pure maths. Like, you needed a calculator, you needed all these things. I'm talking about a calculator like it's a foreign object, but to me it really was. You know, I'm not a mathsy guy. So I got a D, and then overall I had a B in chemistry, a B in geography, an A in biology, and an A in psychology. So I was like, okay, I've got 2 A's and 2 B's. We can work with this.
Yeah.
So I didn't stress. Well, I tried not to stress, but, you know, I had friends texting me like, how'd it go? I got into med school. A lot of my friends did medicine. A lot have applied and got in and are now doctors doing their F1. So a lot of them got in, and then a lot of my dental friends, because dentistry is competitive, right? Like, regardless, it's competitive. So a lot of them actually gap yeared because they were in a similar situation as me and didn't get any offers. So a lot of my friends gap yeared with me for dentistry. I think there was from my immediate friend circle, including myself, there was 4 of us that gap yeared. 3 of us missed our grades, and 1 of them had his grades. So we all kind of supported each other throughout that, which is a good point. I feel as if that kind of helped me get through that. But I got my A and 2 Bs, and I thought, what's next? So, you know, I had the Guardian newspaper, as you do, and I looked in the clearing, and I just thought, like, what can I do? Because I never really envisioned myself at that point now doing anything but dentistry. Like, my work experience, my personal statement, my qualifications, all tailored up really nicely towards dentistry. And I didn't want to prove the haters or the naysayers right, that I can't get in, you know. I didn't want that to be the reality, that he didn't get in. He moved 6th form, he still didn't get in. And I know you should think about what other people say, but it still has an impact regardless. And I looked in the clearing, and my dad got the newspaper for me and was like, have a look. If anything tickles your fancy, have a look. And the funny thing is, medicine was in clearing that year. And they needed 2 A's and a B at one of the London unis. And I was like, and you know what? I didn't want to ring them. And at that point, I knew it's dentistry or nothing now. I rang Birmingham just because, like I said, my sister's a pharmacist. So I rang Birmingham because they had pharmacy and they were happy to take me on. I then had an offer from Kent to do pharmacy as well. So I had these things going on, but it just didn't feel right, you know? And I knew that I didn't want to go into a 3 or 4 year degree just to apply post-grad, you know? For me, it seemed like...
This is clearing straight after you finished your A-levels.
Yeah, so this is the first time I did my A-level exams in 2013. You know, before the gap year, I got the newspaper. You know, the listing for the unis are always in the back of, is it the Guardian or the Telegraph? One of them. One of the big broadsheet newspapers has all the listings in the back. So yeah, I called Birmingham, I called Kent, and I just knew like it wasn't for me. And the medicine thing I knew also wasn't for me anymore. So at that point, I just was like, that's it. You know, it's a gap year, it's a resit year. My chances are now even slimmer, but let's just be positive and try and smash it. And, you know, going forward, I think that's what I did.
So you decided to retake some of your A-levels, try and improve the grades?
Yeah, so I remember on that day, I went back to my 6th form to pick up my paper sheet because because my 6th form was an international college in London. There was kids from all over the world, you know, Dubai, Middle East, India. So like they emailed you your results because time zones. So I got mine on email as a PDF and I had to go in and collect it in paper. And when I went in, I had a word with the headmaster. And you know, this headmaster was a good guy, but you know, like you don't really have much contact with the headmaster. But I spoke to him and he was like, you should come back and resit the chemistry year. And I was like, look, I'm really sorry. It's the last thing I want to do. I was like, I've got all A's and 1 D. I think I can like tutor myself and get a tutor and I can work from home. I don't want to come back just for 1 year, just to do 1 module, you know? So I had a meeting with him on that day. That was really intense. Again, a very intense process. I spoke to my parents and they just like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back to 6th form or do you want to study at home? And for me, going back to 6th form was my biggest nightmare. I just didn't need it. I was over that place. I was over 6th form. I was over the A-level process. And you know, I had been knocked down a few times now, like been knocked down by the A-level process, knocked down by my AS level results, which were good, but not that great, you know, and then knocked down by A2 results. And I was like, is this really for me at this point? You do start thinking, am I going to get in, you know? And you read online forums and you've got people that are like, I've got 800 in the UK CAT, I've got 10 A stars at GCSE, I've got 3 A stars at A level. I'm doing a gap year and I'm going to the Middle East and I'm going to Kenya and I'm traveling. And I'm like, they've got it so lucky and I've got nothing going for me. So I felt quite negative at that time moving forward, Arnold, and I think I needed me time. So I told 6th form, like, I'm not coming back. That's it. I'm not coming back. And it wasn't like I wasn't going to study, but I just knew I didn't need to study right now. You know, I didn't want to go back in September and start all over again. I needed time away from A-levels. Yeah. So that's what I did.
What would you say to people thinking of taking a gap year, how to make the most of it, if they're thinking of applying to dentistry after the gap year?
My gap year was, honestly, along with my first year of uni, gap year was my favorite year, like thus far in my 25 years of life. Gap year was amazing. I would say to anyone considering it, like, just do it regardless. If you have your grades or not, but you have a passion, like, just do the gap year, because I was able to do tons of work experience, you know, like I was able to go and shadow a gum specialist, a periodontist, able to shadow an orthodontist, go to the hospital. I was able to go to general practice. I was able to go to a lab. And I literally did all of dentistry in that gap year as just shadowing, because I had time, you know. They would say, like, can you come in Tuesday at 11 o'clock? And I didn't have that commitment of being in sixth form. So I was able to go where I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. And, you know, I passed my driving test in sixth form, so that helped. You know, I had the car, again, a luxury. My sister took it to work, but when she didn't need it, I was able to take that car and do what I needed to do. And even that, like, doing all my work experiences was really, really useful in that gap year, because it just cemented it further. You know, I spent like a good 3 weeks at the Homerton Hospital with the MaxFax team, and it was amazing. Like, I can't, and you know, with that as well, like, that is just by emailing people, just emailing and nagging. And like, I cannot emphasize how much emailing and being persistent pays off. Like, I just emailed all these people that I could find, and I rang local practices in the area. And of course I had my fair share of rejections. Like, I had practices in my area say, like, no, not at all. But then out of every 10 that say no, you find one that says yes.
Yeah.
So that'd be my first recommendation.
How did you get to a point where it was like, okay, this is enough work experience?
I basically, so the way I structured my gap year was, I'm going to do work experience for the first 4 months, from like August until January. And then I'm going to start revising for my exams that were in summer. I'm going to start revising for them in February. So I knew by February, I want to start focusing back on chemistry and back on my one geography module that let me down. So that's how I structured it, like half the year work experience, half the year revising. But alongside that, I also worked 3 jobs, because I knew like uni would be expensive. So I worked 3 different jobs, saving up gap year money, which, you know what, to be fair, that gap year money lasted until my second year of uni. Wow. So like, it was really, really good. You know, I was able to do some tutoring. I worked at a company called Explore Learning, did some tutoring with them, maths and English, verbal reasoning, you know, ages of 3 to 16, and you're able to write these things on your personal statement. You know, that's another thing that I would recommend, is like, don't take that gap year as a negative. Like, you draw on everything you're doing and you make your personal statement better. That's definitely what I did from that gap year, is I used it as a talking point.
Okay, so how are your results this time round?
So this time round, I reapplied to dental school, and I was a resit and a gap year. So from those, you know, 14 or 13 dental schools we have, only 5 accept resits. So now, you know, the statistics were even more against me.
Were your resits much better?
My resit grades, at the end, they were much better. So I ended up with 3 A's, thank God. I ended up with my 3 A's, but when I reapplied to the unis, they all looked at my application. So I reapplied to King's, because I knew like I wanted to potentially end up there. And then I applied to Plymouth, Sheffield and Leeds. So those are my 4 that I reapplied to, because they all considered retakes. And I redid my UK CAT, I redid my personal statement, and I redid basically everything. I just rejigged my entire application, and I got all my interviews and all my offers. Wow. As a resitting, I think it was just crazy.
Your interview technique, because you said that you felt underprepared the first time. How was the second time different?
I just had a lot more drive and a lot more passion inside of me, because I'd been rejected now, and I just felt like, this is it. I need to go for it. Because, you know, people apply, and I've got friends that applied and they got in 3rd time round, 4th time round. But I was like, as a resit, if this goes wrong again and I don't get, because I still wasn't confident in chemistry. So if this goes wrong again, there's a chance that they won't take someone resitting A-levels for a second time. I was already resitting for a first time. So I had a lot of drive, a lot of passion. I was very confident in my approach, and I prepared a lot more. So I prepared for all the generic questions at home, talking in the mirror, you know, timing myself,
Yeah.
talking to my parents, talking to friends at work, like just boring everyone I could about dentistry. I was like, can I just talk to you about this? And they were like, yeah, like go for it. And it's funny because then people actually find dentistry quite interesting.
Mm.
Like you talk to people that have no interest in teeth and that hate the dentist. A lot of my gap year friends at work were like that. But then I practiced stuff with them because we were all the same age. It was quite nice. Where I worked, we were all 18, 19, applying for uni. And we, like, they just seemed to, by the end of it, they were intrigued and they were engrossed. And I think, you know, working on those very common scenario questions, like why our university, why dentistry, what makes a good dentist, what have you done in your gap year, all those generic questions. I had a script, I'd prepared a script in my head that sounded somewhat natural.
Yeah.
And I kind of just went along with it, Arnold. And I think that was the key, was I was just confident. And then also my UK CAT did go up by like 100 points.
Okay, significant.
But I just do think a lot of it was down to the fact I wasn't in sixth form and I wasn't stressed.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like you're in sixth form, you've got exams on one side, you've got UCAS on the other side, and then you've got people in the year group also sharing their stories. So like, I've got an interview, I've got an offer, I've got this, but you've got nothing. And that weighs on your mind, like, why can't I be as good as the other person?
Yeah.
And being away from that environment, I just felt like I thrived at home. I felt like an adult, you know, I had a job, I had 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I had like 2 jobs that were paying me and 1 voluntary thing. You know, I was getting up early, going to work, revising when I wanted to. I was doing cool things like shadowing Max Facts, and I felt like I was doing something, you know. And I think that routine and lack of stress from school is what allowed me to just smash the UK CAT and do well in my interviews.
So gap year can really enhance your application in a big way if you approach it right.
Yes, 100%. Like, I can't emphasize how much I'm grateful to that gap year, because, you know, it's crazy. Like, I literally I got 6 months of work experience out of my gap year, and I wrote that on the statement. You know, being a receptionist at a practice for 6 months has allowed me to, and like that was a true fact because of the gap year. And I feel like that statement in itself makes you stand out, because who can say they've had 6 months of work experience? I didn't know a lot of people that did, and I was lucky to have that, you know.
So was that something that you applied for, to be a receptionist, or was it just suggested? Because that's any way you can use to get into
the system,
practice and soak in everything.
Yeah.
And it's great, but how did you secure that?
You know, my sister gave me the idea. That she was, I talked to her and she was like, why don't you just do reception duty somewhere? Why don't you get involved in a practice? Whether it be 1 day a week, just at the practice doing admin, taking phone calls. And I just did that. I called practices in the area. I literally was on Google, and it obviously was all voluntary. You know, I was a work experience hopeful dentist there. But I was able to then, you know, do admin, take a few phone calls, help them clean down and clean up. And just little things like that is what gave me that insight. And, you know, when you're somewhere for 6 months, you then develop a bit of a thirst of knowledge, and you think like, you kind of then stop the reception stuff and then you start shadowing the dentist. And then that is when I realized there is so much more to dentistry than just white fillings and silver fillings. Because I was very ignorant in my approach when I was young. I shadowed an orthodontist once, and I asked him, don't you get bored? Because it's quite repetitive. And I remember he told me, every day is different in dentistry. It may seem similar when you're just watching, but when you're doing it, it's so different. And those words stuck in my head till this day. And that was the orthodontist that did my teeth. He's a really good guy. He's local in Essex. And yeah, like, I think that's when I realized it's very varied. And yeah, it was just by chance, Arnold. A lot of these things are right place, right time, but a lot of rejections came with it. Like, I've been knocked down by so many practices and so many jobs that like I rang in my gap year. So I think don't get upset if you don't get the first one, and especially with COVID and things moving forward, it's going to be quite difficult, unfortunately, for people to get work experience, because it gets harder every year, right?
That's it. I'd like to ask you about your time in dental school, but just to round off this video, what would you say to Onkar when he was looking to apply to dentistry the first time?
So when I was looking to apply the first time in 2013, I would say, don't pay attention to everyone else around you. You do you and focus on your own journey, because things will happen at your own pace. It doesn't matter if person X is getting an interview and you're getting rejections. It will all fall into place at the right time. And when it's meant to be, it will meant to be, and you won't look back. That's probably what I would tell myself.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, join us in part 2, where we're going to be talking about King's College London, the dental school, and how you can maybe even win the Portsmouth Prize yourself.
Thanks, guys.